Okay. Hello and good morning to one and all present here. On behalf of the National Human Resource Welfare Association, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you this Saturday morning. Our speaker today is a globally renowned and respected brand management expert, Mr. Christopher Roberts. Welcome, Chris. Chris is the developer of the Total Engagement model, which designs and aligns key elements of your brand to maintain brand integrity and customer focus. He's a published academic author, an author of various brand management books, and a guest lecturer at the University of Queensland at a master's level. He's also the managing director of Engage Strategy, which is the world's first official distributor of nice sat metrics. Today's presentation that Chris will be sharing with you, apart from sharing a lot of his knowledge about brand management and customer experience and the importance of focusing on the human resources that you have in your company, are based on his 20 plus, on his experience across 20 plus industries. He has spearheaded 4 national employee engagement benchmarking studies, which has come out with very, very intrinsic insights at a very basic level, at a very core level, that tell you about how important your staff are towards driving your business towards success. He has worked on multiple client engagements and has helped brands revive from the depths of hell, literally, to becoming the best brands in their industry. And he will also be sharing a few techniques that he has used primarily to rejuvenate brands from the worst to the best. If you ever want to reach out to Chris, do write to him at enquiry@engagedstrategy.com.au. The email ID is present on the slide. Please to make a note of it, else we will be sharing this presentation on the NHRWA's YouTube channel by tomorrow, which is titled as National Human Resource Welfare Association. If you type for National Human Resource Welfare Association on YouTube, you will find the channel there, and this presentation of today will be uploaded over there. Before we begin, I would like you to make a note of the copyright details. Yeah, so the information that is being presented here is primarily the copyright of Engage Strategy, and the entire publication and the webinar is being recorded and will be owned by Engage Strategy and partially by NHRWA for broadcasting this event. And if there is any information from here that is replicated without being attributed to Engage Strategy, it can lead to legal action. I do hope you please make a note of this. Thank you. Chris, over to you. I won't be taking much of your time.
Okay. First of all, welcome everyone. Thank you, NHRWA, for giving me the opportunity to speak today. And Keithana, thank you very much for the actual introduction. Today, I'm really going to cover off surefire ways to make your staff go above and beyond. And you must be wondering why I'm focused on this particular aspect. The reason why I'm focused on this particular aspect is that the link to the organization's loyalty and growth is just inextricable. So let me just kick off what I'm going to cover off. Before I actually do that, I suppose there's one thing I want to say is that, and you guys are HR professionals, so you can actually tell me whether I'm on the right track or not. But every organization I've ever worked at and every client we've dealt with, unfortunately, the HR department is seen largely as a support function. And what I'm going to take you through today, the actual techniques, is about taking HR and giving it a real strong seat around the executive table. And you'll get a sense of what that is, because this is not just about satisfaction. It's really about getting staff to be engaged so that they go above and beyond. And you'll get a sense of how that actually links to business success so very strongly. So the first thing I'm basically going to cover off is about getting staff engaged. It's not about satisfaction. In my mind, satisfaction is basically a hygiene factor. If you work somewhere, the least you should be doing is making sure your staff are actually satisfied. But getting staff engaged means they will actually give you discretionary effort. It means they will go above and beyond, what is normally expected of them in their day-to-day work life. And to this end, what I'm going to do is, because I've spoken about the link between loyalty and growth, and loyalty and growth comes from customers. Because when you think about it, the source of all revenue is basically your customers. They decide to select you, they decide to buy from you, they decide to recommend you to other people, and basically leave actual positive reviews. So the real critical issue is how does HR or employee engagement drive this? So then what I'm going to cover off is the inextricable bridge between customer and staff engagement. And you'll get a sense of what really connects those two strategically and how important a connection it actually is. And finally, I'm going to share with you how you actually do it. So I'm going to start off with a story. And I have to tell you, I'm calling this my Poisoned Chalice. And let me explain for those of you who are not familiar with the term. A chalice is like a goblet. And a goblet is normally what they give you wine with. A poisoned chalice is when someone gives you a goblet and instead of wine, they actually put poison in it. And I'll explain why I call this my Poisoned Chalice. I have to tell you, this was probably a significant event in my career. And at the time, I thought it was massively painful, but in hindsight, it was probably one of the best things that actually happened to me. So let me just share this story with you. I was I was in banking in those days, and I was head of marketing for all the lending products, so home loans, credit cards, personal loans. And then the head of marketing for all the funding products, so term deposits, accounts, cash management accounts, investment accounts, etc. And I got tired of doing those two jobs because let me explain to you, product or portfolio management is a function of, I have these products, who can I sell it to? And an opportunity came up where I could do another role, which was customer management. And customer management is the flip side of that. It is, you have all these customers. How do you get most value from them? So in customer management, you do things like customer segmentation, CRM projects. You look at adding more value into the actual customer base and so on and so forth. And I kind of got headhunted into this actual position because I had a reputation for taking troubled product portfolios and turning them around and making them successful. So the lending portfolio was going backward at a rate of knots, and I completely turned that around. And the funding portfolio was struggling as well. That's another portfolio I actually, turned around. So I got headhunted into this position. I was really looking forward to it. And then what happened is the CEO came down to see me. And he came down to see me, and initially I was quite happy, the CEO coming to see me personally after getting a new position. And what he said to me was, he said, Chris, I want you to drive our customer-focused strategy, which was called All Finance. And the strategy was fundamentally about, getting customers to have as many products with the bank as possible. So let me explain the situation to you. So the financial institution I was a part of had banking products, insurance products, investment products, like unit trusts and so on and so forth, and business banking. So the strategy was developed by the CEO, and it was basically, we need to get, as many products per household as possible. And to his credit, he was absolutely relentless in terms of communicating this to the organization. So every opportunity he got, he was talking about this strategy of his, right? And it made sense because in those days, we were the only financial institution in the whole country that actually had, banking, insurance, investments, and business banking. There was a slight problem though, and this is why I was really concerned. In fact, I broke into a cold sweat because he wanted me to lead this strategy. Now, why was I concerned? Even though it made logical, intellectual sense, I'll explain. It was because there was zero support. So what do I mean by zero support? The executive, so that means the head of banking, the head of insurance, the head of business banking, the head of the call center, were not interested in the strategy. They only wanted to sell their own products. So The lending people wanted to sell home loans and credit cards. The insurance people wanted to sell home insurance and property insurance, and so on and so forth. The call center was not interested because they were interested in grade of service and reducing costs per call. They were not interested in selling anything. But the biggest challenge was the fact that customers were not interested. So we did research, and in those days, a few financial institutions went under, and customers were basically saying they did not want to put all their financial products in one organization. And business banking, of course, were definitely not interested. The one that hurt the most was basically customers, and it was because it's like no stakeholder supported this strategy, and I was supposed to head the whole thing up, and that made me extremely nervous. And but there was a slight glimmer of hope. I mentioned the fact that I used to look after funding products and lending products, and I had run a home loan campaign that had broken sales records. And because of that, the bank branch network, so the actual bank branches, had a bit of affinity and affection for me. So I went to them and I said, look, I have to do this. Can you help me out? I will take you through exactly what I did to make this happen. But at the end of the presentation and throughout the presentation, I'm going to share the techniques that gave me the results that I'm going to share with you. But let me just share the results. So from this desolate situation where there was no executive support, no call center support, no customer support even, how could we get any results? But these are the results we actually got. We achieved 110,000 incremental sales in 10 months. We had a total customer base number stayed constant, but our high value segments, so segment A went up, and low value segments, segment E, decreased. There was an independent valuation of the strategy of $80 million, and the executive team got really nervous about it and downgraded it to actually 40 million. Business banking came on board. They didn't like it at the beginning, but then they said it was a great strategy and they wanted to be part of it. The call center came on board. Remember, they were the ones who were only interested in how much time people spend on the phone, and they generated $16 million incremental revenue in 4 months. There was a project group allocated for customer focus that included 20 full-time and 10 part-time staff. And there was $16 million allocated for customer relationship management and other customer-focused initiatives. One thing I should tell you is that the bank branch network, as much as I had a good relationship with them, the staff at that time had joined to serve people or provide service. They had not joined to sell anything. So sell to them was a dirty word. So moving right along, the next thing I want to cover off is the link, the inextricable link between customers and staff. And the best thing is to use quotes by Tony Hsieh. Unfortunately, he passed away some months ago, but he founded Zappos, and Zappos was a very, very successful brand, absolutely legendary in terms of customer service. And he basically said a customer's brand and a company's culture are two sides of the same coin. And you have Ray Davis from Umpqua Bank who said culture and brand are the exact same things, and you cannot have one without the other. I'm now going to talk you through the top drivers of customer engagement, and let me tell you how we got this. So we've got experience across 20+ industries, but this was based on our benchmarking studies, and we've done 30 of them, so across all sorts of categories. And what we came up with was the following. So the first thing was a value proposition. And let me explain what a value proposition is. A value proposition for a brand is really the answer to the question, why should I buy from you over someone else? So if there are 5 brands out there, why should I select brand A? I mean, to give you an example, Apple is known for design, so that's their value proposition. Samsung is known for speed and features and facility, and Xiaomi is known for value for money. So it's really a case of what is the value proposition? Why should I select you over basically others? And when it comes to the value proposition, this is a key factor in terms of driving organizational loyalty and growth. The second aspect is your customer experience DNA. And let me explain this. Most people, when they look at customer experience, they look at it in terms of customer satisfaction. But in fact, there are two aspects to customer experience. One is the emotional aspect represented by the hearts here. And the second is the functional aspects represented by the brains here. So you've got to appeal to both. A functional aspect of a relationship or a customer experience is things like being timely and reliable and knowledgeable, etc., right? And the emotional aspects is how customers feel after they interact with you. Do they feel valued, cared for, supported? So the best way to explain this is if you go to a coffee shop, right, the functional elements are going to be around, did the coffee come on time? Did it taste good? Was the coffee shop clean, right? The emotional elements is how they make you feel. So did they offer you a little special cookie? Did they draw a design on your coffee shop? Do they remember your name? If you look upset and you're a regular customer, do they come to you and say, hey, Chris, how are you going? Are you okay? You look a bit stressed today. Now, the secret, the absolute secret of loyalty leaders around the world is the emotional bits of the experience. So how you make people feel. And why am I covering this off? Because emotions need to be transferred from staff through to your customers. Human beings actually deliver the emotion. The next thing is the perception that staff at this brand will go above and beyond, which is really the topic of this presentation. So this is the perception that people have that say, if I ever have a problem, the people at this brand will go above and beyond to resolve it for me. And this is, when we looked at 30, 40 different attributes, these are the key things that stood out. So if you could only do 3 things, these are those 3 things. And as you'll see, 2 of them are heavily linked to your staff. So now what I'm going to talk about is this employee engagement versus satisfaction, and what is the definition of that. So everyone talks about employee satisfaction, but what is the difference between engagement? And the best way to explain it is employee satisfaction is how happy are employees with their current job and conditions. And you can increase this by having a ping pong table as an example in the office. And employee engagement is a measurement of an employee's strong emotional commitment to the brand or the organization. And that is the big difference. And if I jump to this next slide, you'll understand exactly what my focus is for this presentation. So at this bottom end, you've got satisfaction. So when you look at a staff member, the environment is safe. As an example, there's no kind of bullying, as an example. You have tools and resources, there's training available. I have enough time to do my job. There's no bureaucracy or politics. So, I can do my job reasonably okay. I'm treated fairly, I'm paid fairly. Once you get up a level to the engaged level, there's good teaming. I have freedom to do what I want to do, what I think needs to be done. I have the ability to grow as a person. And I feel in this organization, that people really value what I do. People care about me and I'm supported, right? But when you go above and beyond to a level beyond that, then suddenly you've got a purpose and meaning match. And I'll explain this bit later on. So a purpose and meaning match is when an individual's purpose in life and their meaning they put on life matches the organization's purpose and meaning. The second thing is, I can actually make a difference, and I know I'm making a difference, and I know I'm having an impact. If not on the organization, I'm having an impact on the community, I'm having an impact in the world, right? Third point is, I know where the organization is going, what the strategy is, and I'm personally committed to making it very successful. And the last point is leadership that is really inspirational. So not functional, command and control style leadership, but inspirational leadership. And our focus today is at this space. So they go above and beyond in the engaged space. So first thing I want to share with you is why engage. In fact, there was the CEO I went to say he needed to do an employee engagement study. And he said to me, Chris, why do we need to do any employee engagement? After all, they get paid, don't they? And I just burst out laughing and I showed him these next 2 slides. And after that, he was convinced that he needed to do something. So let me share those same slides with you. What we actually did is we did an employee engagement survey model. And the last time we did it was, one year or 2 years before COVID, but the results are not going to change. So we had around 3,000 participants. It was opt-in online survey, very independent, so completely independent. We measured 40 plus attributes across all sorts of levels. And I'll tell you what we measured. First of all, we are going to look at headline measures. So the key metrics, we measured discretionary effort, which is our staff willing to go above and beyond. We measured internal NPS, which I'll explain in a second, and champions, which I'll also explain in a second. And these are headline metrics. And underneath that, we measured the emotion staff feel at work, the organization ratings, their job ratings, leadership rating, team ratings. And finally, we measured how well the organization lives its organizational values. So to understand ratings, the ratings were out of 10, but I just want to give you an example because everyone does movies. So when you look at ratings, we aim for ratings of 8 or above out of 10, right? We say that's a good score. And remember, this is about engagement, not satisfaction, because it's a higher order measure than just satisfaction. So imagine if you had movie ratings, like, would you invest in a movie that got 2.5 stars out of 5? Probably not. You'd look for ratings for at least 4, right? So keep that in the back of your mind when I talk about ratings. And now I'll explain what eNPS is, which is one of our key headline metrics. eNPS is the answer to the question, how likely are you to recommend your organization to your friends or family as a great place to work on a scale of 0 to 10? So if you get a 9 or 10, you're called a promoter. If you get a 7 or 8, you're a passive. So promoters are really keen and they will happily recommend you. Passives think you're good, they just don't think you're great. And then 0 to 6 are detractors. And these are typically people who have some kind of issue with the organizations and definitely not very happy. So the net promoter score, which is what you'll hear about, is the percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors. So if 40% of people give you a 9 or 10 and they're promoters and 10% are detractors and they give you 0 to 6, it's 40 minus 10, which is 30. Now, when you actually, let's move this up. When you actually look at the study results, you'll get a sense of why you should engage customers. So across Australia, 43% of the population were detractors, 0 to 6. Only 20% were promoters. So that gave you an eNPS score of minus 23. But when we looked at this one, which was a really sad result, we said, would the employee recommend their own organization's products and services? We had 36% basically said they would not, 30% said they would, and 34% were passive. So the NPS of this was minus 6 as well. So the question you got to ask yourself is, if your own employees are not going to recommend your products, what hope have you got with customers doing it? Because NPS, as some of you would know, is a key metric in terms of measuring customer loyalty and growth. So then you go, okay, answering that CEO's question who said, why measure employee engagement anyway? Because after all, they get paid. And this is the answer to that question. It's about loyalty and it's about discretionary effort. So discretionary effort is the fact that staff will go above and beyond, what is normally expected of them in a 9-to-5 job. So let me now show you the money, all right? So what's the economics behind it? So when you look at detractors by themselves, remember 43% of the population are detractors. Their stated loyalty means the fact that they plan to stay there in the short to medium term was only 28%, right? In other words, mentally, they have left the organization anyway. The willing to go above and beyond score was 4.3 out of 10. Remember what I said to you? I said you need scores of at least close to 8. On the flip side, if you looked at promoters, their stated loyalty was 85.4%, which is almost, close to 90. And their discretionary effort was 7.6. So they are willing to go above and beyond. Their score was 7.6. That is 77% more. And as you guys know, all organizations talk about increasing efficiency, increasing productivity. And all you need to do is engage staff. And I'll show you how to do that. And you will drive productivity up like you would not believe. Maybe 1 second, let me just. Now, when you look at, 1 second. When you look at engagement and you look at strategy and the understanding of strategy, what we found that was quite interesting was if you look at the food chain, so what I mean is top of the food chain are your executives and down the food chain is like workers. And you look at the ENPS, what you find is executive management is really high at 9%. But then if you go down to customer service, skilled staff, it's literally like at minus 42, minus 35%. So the real question to ask yourself is, do your staff, especially your frontline staff, understand your strategy and direction? And what I'm going to take you through next is probably one of the most powerful tools I've used over the years to measure engagement. And let me explain how it works. The way it actually works is on this axis, staff understand your strategy. And on this axis, staff are personally committed to making our strategy a success. So obviously, if they understand your strategy and they're personally committed to making it a success, then they are what you would call champions, right? And that's what you want. And what I've actually done here is in this slide, I've put in for each of these squares exactly what the discretionary effort is. So first up, if you look at champions, their discretionary effort is 7.1. So their likelihood to go above and beyond is 7.1. Then you have, and these are people who understand your strategy intellectually and are personally committed to making it successful. Then you've got weaklings, and weaklings are people who don't understand your strategy and are not really personally committed to making anything successful. And their ability to go above and beyond is just 4.4. Now you have this next group, which is a very interesting group. They are called bystanders. And bystanders are people who intellectually understand your strategy, so they understand it, but they're not personally committed to making your strategy a success. And the trouble with this group is that they can actually white-hand or destroy any cultural initiatives you have by spreading negative stuff about it. And every organization has this, and most people think it's funny, and these are loose cannons. And loose cannons are people who don't really understand your strategy, so they don't fully understand your strategy, but they're personally committed to anything. So they are just positive people who are just personally committed to absolutely anything. The average discretionary effort was 5.77. So you'll get a sense that communicating strategy and direction and having people personally committed to its success is absolutely critical. So the next bridge, and I touched on this before when I talked about from a customer engagement perspective, emotions are really critical. But let's look at staff. When it comes to staff, what we found is 32% of staff felt stressed. That means they have work to do and the capacity to do it is not as great. But 29% feel frustration. And that means, I am at a level here where, I can't do anything about what is wrong, right? And on the flip side, when you look at customers, you know how we said before that the key to customer engagement is customers feeling the right emotions. Only human beings can make another human being feel a certain emotion. So the emotional transfer from staff to customers is key. And the key emotions in that space for both customers and employees are the same. It's like they both want to feel valued, they both want to feel cared for, and they both want to feel supported. So let's look at the actual results. When you look at want to feel valued, 69% of employees said they wanted to feel valued. But only 36%, so like almost 1/3, feel valued now. 54% want to feel supported, but only half that amount feel supported now. So the question you got to ask yourself is, if your staff don't feel valued, cared for, and supported, how are they going to be able to make your customers feel valued, cared for, and supported? So the transfer of emotions is absolutely, absolutely critical. So your staff must feel an emotion first before they can transfer it across. The next thing I want to cover off is before you try to influence others, you must know, what is already influencing them. And I'm going to take you through this tool, which again, I've used for many, many years. It's based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And especially when you're trying to do organization-wide transformation, these are absolutely key elements to know. And this is something you can use, by the way, not just for organization-wide transformation. You can use it in your personal relationships, within your teams, et cetera, et cetera. So like I said, it's based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There are 6 needs. And believe me, everyone, regardless of country, culture, creed, religion, has all these needs. But some people have 1 or 2 needs more than others. And once I take you through this, you'll get a sense of who these people are. You'll be able to literally identify them. So I want you to imagine this. 6 people climb K2, which is the second highest mountain in the world, not the highest. And this is what they do when they hit the top, right? The first person is, we'll call him Mr. or Mrs. Significance. And the first thing they do is they climb up and they say, this is great. I never thought I could achieve it, but we climbed it. And I feel so proud of myself for achieving this amazing goal. But this is not enough for me. Next time we have to climb the highest mountain, which is Mount Everest. Functionally, these people tend to be senior executives. They tend to be CEOs. They tend to be rock stars. They tend to be politicians. So, significance is a big issue for them. The second person that climbs up the second highest mountain, we'll call them Mr. or Mrs. Connection. The first thing they do is they look all around, they check on the welfare of other people, and they might go, for example, to Keerthana and say, hey, Keerthana, you had a headache before, can I give you some Panadol? They'll go around and ask people, do you want a coffee or a tea? And they're interested in connecting and love of other people. And professionally, these people tend to be like, teachers, nurses, and so on and so forth. Certainty. So this person will climb the second highest mountain, and the first thing they'll do is pull all their instrumentation out. So they'll start counting exactly how long it took them to climb the mountain. They'll start calculating how long it's going to take them to climb back down. They will measure the wind speed, they'll measure the temperature, and they'll start working out exactly how it's going to work. So typically these people professionally tend to be accountants, engineers, and so on and so forth. And the fourth person is Mr. or Mrs. Variety. And as soon as they go up there, they say, wow, this was great fun. I really enjoyed myself, but next time, can we swim with the sharks instead of climbing another mountain? I've done the mountain thing. I don't want to do it again, right? And professionally, these people tend to be in the arts, in the actual creative arts or the performing arts, so on and so forth. Now we call these the core human needs. And if you meet these needs and something is still missing, so I'll give you an example. Supposing you've done well in your career, you have great relationships, you have a great marriage, you have safety and security in terms of your finances, you're doing really well, and you have variety, you travel a lot, and you still feel something is missing, then you go for the other 2 people. The first person is Mr. or Mrs. Growth. And what they do is they talk about, I never thought I could climb this mountain, I thought it would be a real challenge. It really pushed me very, very hard. And because it pushed me really, really hard, I've learned new skills and I've become a better person as a result, right? The last person is Mr. and Mrs. Contribution. So this is someone who says, you know what, this is really cool. Thank goodness I signed a contract deal with National Geographic. And as a result of this, you know, all the money I make from this documentary can go to save the whales. Key point to make here is contribution is not just about charity. Contribution could be contributing to my team, contributing to the organization, contributing to the brand. To explain this a little bit further, if I said to you, Mother Teresa, what are her, you know, top needs? Most of you would say connection for sure. And they might say contribution to society, and they would be right. But if it was only connection and contribution, Mother Teresa would be just another nun in Calcutta. But what made her Mother Teresa over every other nun is she had a strong need for significance. And that's a defining factor. So don't believe that significance does not play a role, right? You can use this in your personal life with your significant other as an example. If you know what their top 2 or 3 needs are, you can manage your relationship, make sure you meet those needs and create an amazing relationship. So for example, you know, my wife, as an example, has a strong need for connection, but her requirement for connection is some people, you know, might get that sense of connection and love from getting gifts or flowers or stuff like that, or nice words. My wife likes me to do stuff. So she meets a need for connection by me actually doing things. So it's not enough to know what the needs are, it's how people meet them. But within your team, you will already be able to identify people that meet each of these characteristics. But just remember, everyone has all 6 needs, 2 or 3 needs bubble up to the surface. You'll notice the mean scores here. This is how well organizations are meeting these needs. So all these scores are really, really low. And the most important part about this slide is, if at work you can meet 2 or 3 needs, it becomes a positive addiction. So if you look at people who are truly engaged at work and love what they do, it means 3 or more needs in this thing are being met. So it might be a case of my needs for growth are being met. I can contribute to society in a positive way. I have variety in my workforce. You know, I have a sense of certainty. I know my job is going to be secure. I have a sense of connection. I have great teams. And I feel significant because I feel valued and cared for. So in your organization-wide change process, before you try to influence others, you must factor in what is already influencing them. And this is a great tool to do that. So how do you actually overcome employee disengagement? First thing is leadership. And the second one is understanding what the key drivers are. And the key drivers I'll take you through is based on our benchmarking, our client engagement, and so on and so forth. So the first thing I want to talk about is engaged leadership. So what you have is, you know, what is leadership in that sense? You know, I'll talk about leadership later on, but engaged leadership, in my mind, is the ability for someone to strongly engage, in this case, staff, to a cause or a common goal, the ability to do that. So who is an engaged leader? An engaged leader is someone who takes foundational leadership skills and then enhances it with engaged leadership skills. So let me take you through what that is. Foundational leadership, so any leader should be strategic. They should obviously be inspirational. They should be able to build trust within their teams. They should be empathetic, so they should be able to understand how people feel and react. And they should be visionary. So they should basically have a vision and take people along that vision, right? And that's foundational leadership. It is what I would call, you know, fundamentals of leadership that you need to have. Engaged leadership is slightly different, but it's plus all this. It has to be the relentless selling of strategy and purpose. I've seen this research that says staff have to be told about strategy and direction at least 10, 12 times before it finally sinks in. They should know influencing skills, which is what I took you through, the 6 human needs. They must know how to tailor the conversation based on each of those 6 needs. They need to go to the front. They can't just sit in head office and think they know everything about what's happening out there. They need to go to the front. They need to go to the coal face. They need to spend time at the front line. They need to be completely customer obsessed. This is not just customer focused. They have to be customer obsessed. We have CEOs. If a customer is upset, client CEOs, they call them themselves personally. That's what I call customer obsessed. And they need to be able to draw a line of sight between every worker and in terms of the impact they're having on the overall strategy and direction. So granular accountability is absolutely key. So having said that, let me quickly take you through the key employee engagement drivers, and you'll see a theme coming here. So the first thing is, like I took you in the champion slide, make sure staff understand your strategy, purpose, and direction, and relentlessly communicate it. Second thing is develop structured ways to meet each of the core human needs, because once you do that, you create a positive addiction. Communicate, and when we did this, we actually did correlation, and this went the other way. So it said that if this organization exists purely for economics, there was a negative correlation. So the organization needs to find a purpose or a goal that goes beyond just economics. Create a line of sight for each staff member. So every staff member knows exactly how they're contributing to the overall direction. Recognition, everyone wants to be recognized. Even the people who say, I don't want recognition, want to be recognized. And you have to have a structured way of doing this. Emotionally, if you can make staff feel valued and supported, they will then make customers feel valued and supported. And the last thing is creating a program to create engaged leaders. So what we found with some of our engagements is that the executive, everyone thinks because you're an executive, you know everything, right? But the fact is, we found executives come to us and say, look, Chris, I'm not sure exactly what I'm expected to do. So we actually developed a half-day program where we taught them the 6 human needs and those influencing skills. We taught them how to tell stories. We taught them the regular behaviors they need to encapsulate to really drive change. And you won't believe this, the first time I did it, because these were executives, the CEO was there as well, I was a bit embarrassed, because I'm thinking, am I teaching them simple stuff? But to a person, each one of them came to me quietly and they said, Chris, thank you. I really didn't know what to do. This was great. So don't believe that just because someone is a leader or an executive, they know exactly what to do. So coming back to my case study, remember my poisoned chalice, the pain, the thing that gave me a cold sweat. How did we actually do it? Everything I've taken you so far. So the first thing we did is sell, not tell. So we sold the strategy. I did a longitudinal study. So I went back in time with customers. And what we found is that the more products people have, greater the loyalty and greater the lifetime value. And the difference was dramatic. So if someone had 1 product versus 3 products, as an example, the lifetime value was almost 3 times. The more products you start with, counterintuitively, the likelihood to purchase in the future actually increases, doesn't decrease. And when we sold this to staff, people actually got it. When I talk about leadership going to the front, every branch network team of 10 branches, which was headed up by an area manager, had an executive linked to them from the CEO downwards, the top 20 executives. And their job was to go to the front, see what's happening, support their teams, help in brainstorming sessions to deliver better customer outcomes. You have to provide tools and resources. So all the branches and the area managers were given brainstorming kits in terms of how they could get together with their teams and come up with great ideas, which they did. The whole process was fun, and you've got to make sure it's fun. Like, work has to be fun, because then you don't go to work, you go to play. There was appreciation reward at all levels, at an individual level, at a branch level, at an area manager level, etc., etc. There was sharing of best practice. There were newsletters where different areas that did really well, what they did was shared across the team. And there was, we matched meaning and purpose. You will remember I said to you that these branch network people, they wanted to serve and they did not want to sell. And that was a real challenge for me. How do I spin this? Because at the end of the day, they had to sell additional products. And I'll tell you how I did it. I did it because they may not want to sell, because for them that was not a good word, but they did want to serve. And if they wanted to serve, they wanted to help. And I'm going to share a slide with you. It's a bit dated now in terms of design, but it was the most powerful thing we did to engage the staff. And this is what the slide is. I said, give me 1 second. The term we used is you have a duty of care, right? If you believe your job is to serve, you have a duty of care. And what is that duty of care? Your duty of care is to make sure you help customers save money. You help customers make money, with investment products. You help customers save time, with direct debits and salary credits. And you help protect their assets and lifestyle, like insurance. And that is our approach. So we converted the word sell to help, and we took help to another level and said, you have a duty of care. So it's almost like if you are in this business of serving, and you have a duty of care to do this because this is part of your job in terms of serving. And I noticed the older people in the audience were nodding their heads. And as soon as they did that, I knew the strategy was going to work. So the crux of the entire strategy working was this one slide. Give you another example about linking organizational purpose beyond economics. One of our clients is Jets. It's a 24/7 gym. And we do a lot of work for them. But one of the things we did was the employee engagement studies. And there are open comments. And in the open comments, you do a word cloud. So the bigger the font, that word is being mentioned more. And when we looked at the comments, the one word that came up like really strongly, like massively big, more than anything else, was the word love. And I looked at it and I looked at the comments, and people love their job. They love this, they love that. And I thought this was some kind of cult, not some kind of business. So when I presented to the CEO, Elaine, it was quite interesting. I said, is this some kind of cult? And then I realized what the story was. Jets is all about helping their customers lead healthier, energetic lives. The people who work for Jets, that is their purpose as well. So when you link an individual's purpose with the organizational purpose, magic happens. So to summarize, I suppose I started off by saying, how can HR have a strategic seat at the table as opposed to being perceived as purely a support area? My advice would be completely aim high. So what do I mean by aim high? Train your leaders to become effective and good role models. Make sure the staff is saying, I understand the strategy and purpose. Get to the stage where your staff says, I am deeply committed to making the strategy absolutely successful. Get staff to get to the stage where they say, I know I'm making a difference, and what I'm doing is being appreciated and recognized. And the ultimate goal is to make sure all your staff feel valued. And if you aim high and you achieve all these things, you'll end up in a situation where there's a massive flow and impact to end customer outcomes, the source of all revenue, because these are the people who decide to select you as a brand, decide to stay loyal to you, decide to give you recommendations to their friends and colleagues, and give you positive reviews as well. So that is what I would suggest. Just for you, at a very high level, a suggested roadmap. So the first thing I would suggest is the top bit is every organization has vision, values, mission, etc. But in addition to that, I would suggest developing an employee value proposition that meets those 6 human needs. So it becomes an employee value proposition is, this is why you should work for us as opposed to anywhere else. Have a planned employee experience so you know exactly from a functional, emotional perspective what that should look like. Marry it up to your customer experience, and that'll be magic as well. And aim to get them to go above and beyond, not just be satisfied. Then you need to measure this, because strategic intentions are fine, but if you don't measure it, then you really won't know whether you're successful or not. So you need insights in terms of, are staff really going above and beyond? The champion slide, are they personally committed? Do they understand the strategy? ENPS and NPS. If they don't want to recommend your products and services, is it because they don't know what the benefits are? What are your key drivers? What are your key points? And then develop an engagement plan, which includes your leadership engagement, because remember, they may not know what to do themselves, staff communication, tools and resources and support, and reward and recognition. So that kind of covers the presentation. One thing I want to tell you is, Keerthana will share a link on this chat. And just for attending this session, we're going to give you a complimentary ebook. And we prepared this around COVID time, but it applies to anyone, any business that wants to recover from hard times. It's an ebook that really looks at business recovery secrets for any business. So it's completely complimentary. By all means, download it and keep it for yourself as a reference. So at this stage, I can take questions.
Thank you, Chris. If anyone has any questions, I would request you to kindly unmute, switch on your camera, and ask your question to Chris.
If you have any questions, make sure unmute yourself, because a lot of people do that.
Anyone, any questions? Else, I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Ramprasad.
This is Soumya here.
Yes, Soumya.
Actually, one basic question related to employee engagement. Many a time, employee engagement looks more conceptual oriented or theoretical oriented. But when you want to implement on the floor, there are many challenges, right? So because it touch base with many aspects of the organization as well as the individuals. So when organization is not ready, but they are dreaming for having an employee engagement, what is that as a HR need to create a foundation so that they value the employee engagement programs and to bring in on the floor? So how do we need to prepare for that?
Yeah, okay. So, in the roadmap slide I came up with before, the first thing I would do is I would completely establish your strategic intentions with key stakeholders within your organization. In other words, your key executive. So I would have a workshop and really say to them, what is our culture going to look like? What's our vision, mission, et cetera. And then after you do that and you get that crystallized, the next thing I would do is an employee engagement survey, because I can tell you one thing, most executives are way more engaged than their staff because they're closer to the strategy. And by their very nature, they tend to be self-motivated people, right? So when they actually get a sense of what their strategic intentions are and what they want to do versus reality, which is what staff are telling them, that will be a real wake-up call. And when you apply things like, are you willing to go above and beyond? And they can see the link between having a program and having, some real economic impact versus not. That is when you get change happen. But you have to start at the top, right? You have to build your strategic intentions, then measure the results with surveys, then go out to your exec and say, this is the gap. And if we do this, these are the economic benefits, because executive understand economic benefits and then go to the stage of implementation.
Okay.
May I ask?
Anyone who is not asking the question, and even after you ask the question, I request you to kindly mute yourself. So, Chris's response is pretty clear. Thank you.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, Mr. Gopal Reddy, please.
Yeah. Firstly, Chris, fantastic presentation. Very nice it was. My question is, my team members, they move from being satisfied employees to engaged employees, and from engaged employees to go on beyond, depending on the external circumstances and internal circumstances. So, and it is a temporary, but what do you suggest as a treatment or cure for these type of problems?
Yeah, the main thing I suppose is most people, when they do employee engagement surveys, they do it like once a year. If you're lucky, they might do it once every 6 months. So I think there's a large survey that you might do once a year, but you need to have pulse surveys for the key aspects that are pain points within your organization. And in terms of doing that, that will give you a pulse in terms of what's happening. So these are just 2 to 3 questions that people can quickly get a sense. So you get a pulse of, this is what the issue is. So let's just say, as an example, I remember working for an organization once, and they used to give these fruit bowls, right? 2 fruit bowls for every floor. And one day they reduced it to 1 fruit bowl, and people got really unhappy. And when they asked around, they found out it was because of fruit bowl. So sometimes something can happen, like you said, you have no idea about, but having a short pulse survey, not even to all employees, but sporadically sample-based, you just need a pulse of what's happening in the organization. Because you're right, external situations could change, internal situations could change. Someone could make a decision inadvertently internally, and it's really a case of how do you have a pulse on that. And once you have a pulse, then you immediately take action and you say, oh, we heard X, Y, Z. We just want to clarify either perception or reality. That's how you do it. And if I can just add to that question, you're never ever going to get a situation where each and every staff member is completely happy, right? It's just the nature of things. It's just a case of keeping a level that is above where you are now. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was fantastic. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Chris, I have one more question. This is Soumya again. If an organization is going through a lot of leader-member relationship and that need to be converted as result-oriented organization. Okay, so is this employee engagement program is going to connect those crux and help us in driving the organization towards its intent, and how it can be done in that way?
Yeah, so say for example, it's best if I give you an example, right? So let's look at 3M. You've heard of 3M. They make these post-it notes and they do lots of innovation and so on and so forth. So it's really a case of 3M's strategic advantage is the fact that they innovate, and that's what they do. So staff members at 3M are allowed to have 25 or 30% of their work time on personal innovative projects. So they've taken that whole intention that makes them unique and made it part of the culture. And this is an extreme example. I fully appreciate that. But what you need to do is to say, okay, for you to achieve your business goals, which I presume are going to be quite challenging, for you to achieve your business goals, right? What values does the organization need to encompass? So if you want to achieve a business goal, how important is teamwork to the achievement of that goal? How important is being customer obsessed to that goal? How important is valuing innovation to that goal? So you need to link initiatives or themes to your business outcome. And then you need to create the infrastructure, the processes that allow people to live those values. So you need to build a straight link between your business objectives and your culture. Because if there's a disconnect, then you'll never achieve your business objectives. So it's that link between the two that you need to do. So for example, in my case study, I was talking about getting people to sell more and changing the culture to being customer focused. And it was a case of how do I link that to what they already are? So you need to build those linkages, because if you don't build your linkage between your business objectives and employee engagement, then unfortunately, you will just become a support function.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you, Christopher.
No worries.
We're open to field a couple of more questions if anyone would like to ask. Well, in the meanwhile, I've shared the link, the download link to the ebook by Chris, which is From Powerless to Powerful, in the group chat. You can click on the link and claim your complimentary copy.
Any last questions? Please ask me questions. I like questions.
All right. If any of you do have any questions that pop up later, you can always write to Chris at enquiry@engagedstrategy.com.au. That's ENQUIRY@ENGAGED, engaged, STRATEGY, strategy.com.au. That's the email ID. So please do send in your questions, and he'll be happy to answer them for you. Chris, any last messages before I hand it over to Mr. Ramprasad?
Yeah, so the only thing I wanted to say is this is definitely possible, right? And every organization is unique and has unique challenges. So like Keethana said, if you get stuck, by all means, reach out. You can also connect with me on my social media handles, and happy to have a chat if there's any way we can help, or talk you through some of the challenges you might have.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Ramprasad, would you like to please deliver the vote of thanks? I think you need to unmute yourself.
Can we get Chris's mail ID, Vandana?
Yeah, okay. I will do a quick thing. I'm going to just share it on the chat, and you can write to him. Over to you, Mr. Ramprasad.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kirtana. And I would like to thank Mr. Christopher for an extremely insightful session on this subject. Really, it has been an honor for NHRWA to have you here in this. And I'm very confident that the participants who are all there, they got a lot of takeaways from the knowledge you have shared. And definitely, people can implement or follow your experiences to at least 10%. Each and every organization definitely can move to a better height, and they can reach Mount Everest, as you rightly quote. Let's not talk low, always aim at a very high. It was very nice, and I'd like to thank on behalf of NHRWA for your complimentary ebook. And I think people can go through that ebook, and that's very wonderful. And I'm really thankful for you to give a complimentary ebook to all our NHRWA members. And secondly, I would like to thank all the NHRWA members who participated, and they have taken a lot of time, and more than that, they show interest. Here, very few people are there, and all the people who are there, they're very interested, and all of they will thank Mr. Christopher. And I'd like to thank not the least Keethana for organizing the entire show and coordinating and designing the posters and promoting all those things. So we'd love to get connected with you and give your inputs to all of our people. Since we are doing this, all the shows and as a cause, and we call NHRWA are givers, not the takers. We'd love to give a lot of things to the society back. And since your ideas and your experiences really matters a lot for all the business people, entrepreneurs, and many more people in this organization. So thank you very much, Mr. Chris, and thank you, Keertana, and I would like to thank all the NHRWA members for attending this. Over to Keertana.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ramprasad. I have also shared the feedback form on the group chat. So I request all of you to please take a minute to fill in the form. I understand from NHRWA that there will be another session next Saturday. Most likely, I think around the same time, you will be intimated via the WhatsApp messages. This is a session on entrepreneurship by Ridhiman Majumdar, who is the founder and CEO of Picker.com. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for the very insightful session, and I do hope everyone has wonderful takeaways with them. Thank you, Mr. Ramprasad. Thank you, Mr. Narasimhan.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.